Mary, it's so nice, first of all, to meet you finally in person and to be able to have a conversation with you. I'm delighted. And the reason I invited you, as I've invited so many awesome guests until now, is because I'm looking at this from my own little bubble, if you will. We're all struggling with Corona. We're all struggling with the impact economically, of course, in terms of our health. And we're trying to figure out, at least I am, we got one disruption of 9/11 here in the States, and then another disruption in 2008 with the Great Recession. And here comes the granddaddy of them all, knocking so many of us off of our heels. And, we can play, we could kind of go back in history and reorient things if we chose to, but this is all about forward thinking. This is all about what can I be doing differently and better and more strategically moving forward that's going to make me more resilient in the future. And because you are a branding expert, and I see your content all the time, and so many people are enjoying what you're sharing, I thought you'd be a great person to be asking. Number one, you could take us through, your biggest lesson of Corona and what it's meant to you. But eventually, I would love to hear more about what a person can and should be doing in terms of their personal brand in order to be as resilient as possible. And you may need to take a moment just to define what personal brand is, because frankly, I don't think everybody really knows or understands it in terms of the conversation we're having. So let me punt it to you, hear your wisdom, and let's take it from there.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And you're absolutely right. This COVID-19 has really created an impact in so many lives. It's not, just, the average family, but, beyond COVID, as in the actual disease, we're also seeing a surge of people losing their jobs, their businesses, senior executives. Many of them have been made redundant. And there's another virus that's happening over and above COVID-19, and that is fear and panic, because people have no idea how they're going to go back to normal, when things start settling down, if they settle down.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think I've been talking about for a very, very long time is the importance of digitalizing your knowledge. Okay. This is a really big, important point I want to make, and how personal branding wraps around this. There's no point in creating a personal brand. It does nothing for you if you're just going to be working on what your brand looks like, what the story is, how authentically you show up on social media. There's no currency in a personal brand if it cannot be commercialized. Okay, that's the first thing. We need to understand that. And one of the things for myself, and I'm very grateful, is that I'm in the digital world. My whole business runs on digital. There is no need for me to meet a client face to face in real life and do what I have to do. My entire business runs online. Zoom has been my best friend for the last 5 years. So for me, it has been literally business as usual. In fact, a surge of business has come my way since Corona. And that is because a lot of people, as I said, have been made redundant or have taken the opportunity to think, hang on a minute, if this happens again, what position would I find myself in? And a lot of my posts are around this topic, where I do talk about, for me, COVID's one thing, but on the other hand, it is business as usual. My business is growing, and this idea of converting your knowledge into a digital business is real, and it should be taken seriously for anybody that believes they can solve a problem based on their last 10, 15, 20, 30 years experience, for example, in the corporate world. These are the people that have an opportunity of a lifetime.
So let me interrupt for a second, if I may, Mary, because first of all, this is fantastic. I love the idea. Obviously, we want to be thinking bottom line, commercializing what we're learning in our experiences. And I know I'm not giving you the amount of time that this conversation really deserves, so we'll have to figure out how to go deeper. But in the time that we have remaining, give us, first of all, an example, please, of somebody either that you worked with, or if you need to make it a little bit more anonymous to protect your clients, that's totally fine. But an example that somebody who's listening to this saying, well, what skills do I have? I've been toiling in a corporate environment. Maybe I've been working in a bank, I've been working in a company, I've been doing my job and doing it well, but there are 10,000 of me. I'm a CFO. There are 10,000, 10 million, however many millions of CFOs out there in the world. What can I do as a quote unquote non-distinguished, successful, but not necessarily distinguished individual that's going to put me on the path so that I can be more resilient, whether I go back to a regular job or I become a consultant or whatever I do moving forward? What is it specifically that I could be tapping into that's going to allow me to leverage my experiences in the right way?
I think the first thing is that I want to say this is a mindset shift to begin with. Okay. So it's not something that you can wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, I'm going to package my knowledge and become a consultant or a coach. And that's great. This is a mindset shift first and foremost, because to go down this pathway, it requires courage, and
Yep.
it also requires an investment in time and money. And also it requires a person to be prepared to put
Mm,
themselves out there. Now, this is why a platform like LinkedIn is so powerful right now. Even though there's 650 million people on the platform, when you compare it to platforms like Facebook, it's still in its infancy. So we do have an opportunity to be seen and be heard on platforms like LinkedIn if it's done in a strategic and a deliberate way. Now, going back to the question you asked is, okay, most people will say, well, I'm a nobody. I'm not like you, Mary. I can't get in front of the camera. You've been doing this for a long time. And the answer is no, that's not the truth. The reality is that I merged the three loves of my life, and I realized by doing that, I could solve a big problem. Okay. That's all I did. This takes time. I call it the unpacking process. And we have to be able to sit down and ask these big questions. What problem can I solve? Who is it that can I serve? Can I go back into corporate and utilize my skills and take back what I know, the knowledge and the wisdom that I've gained over the last 20 years, and go back into the corporate world and solve a problem? I'm not a
right,
nobody. I'm a
right.
somebody, right?
Yeah. So, and you don't have to necessarily go into consultative work in order to accomplish
No,
that, because what I found I was talking to Shaina Keren, for example, and we were talking about disaster proofing your career. When you value up, when you increase your skill set, when you demonstrate different capacity, you become the last person they want to let go. And you become somebody who's a resource for others. So a lot of different ways to approach this. It's not like everybody's now got to pivot 360 and say, I'm going to do something different.
no.
How can you repurpose and re-identify or rebrand yourself within your own company, within your own network, in a way that people will say, this person's really valuable and we need to be paying attention to them. So before we go, I have one last question for you, just a quick answer if you can, although it's a big question. Putting on your kind of futuristic hat for a moment, what do you see is the future, if you will, or some lesson as we're looking out into the future beyond COVID that people need to be thinking about and really internalizing?
We will become a digital world. There is no doubt about that. And I think any person that is stuck in their career right in this moment, or has been toying with the idea of, starting an entrepreneurial journey, now's the time to actually do it. Anyone that has a digital, that is immersed in the digital landscape and is using social media to build their social currency as the go-to expert in one area they know for sure, now is the time to do it. Right now is the time to be thinking about, how can I convert what I know into a digital environment and build a business that can serve corporates and also individuals. So digital, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely the future. And another thing is, social currency will become a real currency, in the sense that you will be judged by how many people are following you and liking you, versus showing up at an interview, or even just an entrepreneur trying to engage a client. People will judge us by our social currency. So it's vitally important to be seen and heard on social media platforms so you can start that momentum happening.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Got to run at this point, but that was great. And follow Mary. She's got tons of advice and wisdom to share. A branding expert par excellence. Thanks again.
Thanks, Naftali. I really appreciate you.